You don't have to spend countless hours backtesting the charts just to be a good trader. If anything, doing it too much might actually be making you worse at trading. My name is Josh Raveo. I'm a full-time trader, and in this video, I'm going to share with you a 3-step framework that will help you become a better trader faster than any backtesting strategy I've seen. I call it forward testing. Oh, and before we get started, if you look in the description below, you'll find a workbook that I created that goes along with this entire video. It covers all 3 of these steps in order, and there are even TradingView templates that you can copy and use for yourself. So the first step in the forward testing framework is record. We need to document everything. And let me explain what I mean. Every Sunday, early in my trading career, I used to go to my trading accounts and I would just log in before the markets open. And the only thing I had to look at was my account balance. So I can see I either made this much or I'm in this much drawdown from last week. That was the only feedback that I actually had on whether or not my trading strategy was working. I don't remember what happened last week, any of the news that came out. Was I overtrading, revenge? Nothing. But for some reason, I was expecting this process to actually make me a good trader. This is the equivalent of wanting to lose weight, but the only thing you do is step on the scale. You have no idea how much food you're eating. You have no idea what kind of workouts you're doing. You're just stepping on a scale and you're like, how come I'm not losing weight? I was doing the same thing with trading. So now I'm going to show you how to record your entire trading day just using TradingView. The first thing that we're going to do is whatever trade that you took, let's just pretend you entered sells here on NAS. So we're going to put this here. Step 1, you put your red and green box where your trade was. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called callout boxes. And we're going to identify everything that you were looking at while trading. That could be like, oh, it was coming up to a support area, or I was waiting for data, or whatever. If there's something that happened, you're going to do this. So where the entry is, obviously, I'm going to put just a number. I'm going to put 1. And I'm going to do this for everything. Let's say maybe I went break even here. And then I'm just going to put 2. This is all I'm doing is labeling it with numbers. Whenever I closed it, if it hit my take profit, I'm going to put 3. And I can go all the way back or all the way forward as much as I need to for the day so I can remind myself the things that I was looking at. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a text box. We're going to grab this, and all I'm doing here is I'm going to put 1, and then I'm going to explain 1. And I'm going to put 2, and I'm going to explain what 2 is. Same thing, 3, 4, I don't care if you have 20 things that you were looking at. I'm documenting everything that I was looking at and why I was either in the trade or what I did or what happened. And I'm using this number system to document that. So that way, because the alternative is you put all of it inside these boxes and then you just have crazy text everywhere. I prefer the number system because you can just read it here and you can see the entire trade. And we can adjust all these sizes after, but for the third one, we're gonna grab another text box. I like to color code these, but for now, we'll leave it all the same color. And this one's gonna be data, news, anything that came out that day. This is gonna be like if NFP came out, what was the expectation and how did it actually come out? That's all I'm putting in this box. Now the actual explanation for the data is gonna be here. You know, let's say this candle was when the data came out, I'm gonna be like, NFP was released, and I'll put that in this box. And for the third box that we're gonna do, which I think is one of the most important, this is gonna be your emotions. You're going to basically kind of journal on how you felt while you were trading. And you're gonna do this with no judgment. You're not gonna be like, no name calling, none of that stuff. You're just gonna be like, I felt anxious and I was afraid to be in the trade because I took losses earlier and I was really nervous about this even though it was there. Like whatever it is that came up, just put it down. This isn't for anybody else to see. This is for you. And I can't stress enough, like take this seriously because when we move on to step 2 and 3, you're gonna see how this stuff is actually going to be a very pinnacle thing in helping you become a better trader and identifying your own problems. And one of the biggest things that's mandatory for me when I'm recording these trades is I want to do it hours after the trade has already played out. So for example, if I'm in this trade and let's say I take profit here, I just took it for a scalp and I get out. And if I take a screenshot of this and I put all my journaling in and I'm like, I'm an awesome trader, I have no idea what actually happened. Look at this massive move to the downside that I just missed out on. And I think that I caught a really good trade by catching 100 ticks on NAS. So my recommendation is when you do all of this, take your trade, put this little green and red box there, and don't do any of these other boxes until like whatever session comes next. For me, it's Asian session. So I'll be doing this during New York session. I'll take my trade. And then whenever I close, and I just leave this green and red box here. And then I come back at night a couple hours later and then I journal all of this. I'll take a screenshot of it and then I'll just put it in a folder. So now I can see everything in one image. I can see the trade that I took, what happened that day, any news, Everything, one shot. When you download the workbook, there's a TradingView template like this that you can just copy the URL over and put it into your own TradingView. I made a dark version, which is the color that I like using, and also a light version if you like to use something different. But once you download it, you can change the colors to whatever you like to use anyways. You can find those templates in the workbook that's in the description below. But recording the trades and just leaving them in a folder isn't enough to make you a good trader. What you want to have is a system that turns everything you're recording into actionable steps and rules for your trading plan. So let's move on to phase 2, review. So for step 2, review, the first thing that we need to do is we have to pick a day that we're actually going to review. Now I like to pick Sunday because this is the first day before the market's open. So you're going to go find all of those files that you were recording your trades and you're going to review them one by one, just reading everything that you wrote last week. You're going to grab a pen and paper while you're doing this, and on this paper, you're going to do something simple. You're just going to write lessons learned. And while you're reviewing everything that you recorded from last week, you're just going to be writing down everything that you think you did wrong that you can do better. But you're not going to do this from a shit-talking perspective. You're not going to be like, oh, you're an idiot, you're dumb, why'd you do this? No, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, man, I took a trade right before data came out and I took a loss. And then you're going to be like, well, I took a trade before a closure and maybe I shouldn't have done that. So you're just looking at things that you think that you can do better and writing it down. I don't care how long the list gets, just do it. And you have to do this from a place of objectivity, not a place of judgment. You can't sit there and be like, why am I so bad at this? Because this is actually the process of getting better. So go through it. So now when you take a step back and look at this process, you're doing a lot of different things, right? Number one, you're trading every day. And then you're recording and documenting all of those trades. So that way tomorrow when you go trade again, you have the mental bandwidth to focus on all of the new trades. And you know if you had any issues yesterday, you have a system in place that you can review it on the weekend. And then you're now reviewing those trades whatever day of the week that you chose to review it. When you're going through this process though, once again, just reviewing the trades isn't enough to actually make change. We need a system to turn the review into rules on your trading plan. And this brings me to step number 3. Without number 3, none of this works. If we go back to the weight loss analogy again, if you're just recording that you're eating pizza every day and doing nothing with it, nothing changes. You're just gonna keep eating pizza every day and you get to record it. And if you're reviewing every Sunday, the fact that you're recording yourself eating pizza all week, but you're not doing anything about this information either, you're also not going to change. You need to have the third step, which is refine. This is where we're actually going to take all of that information, turn this into rules and actionable items for your trading plan. So here's how the refine stage works. We're going to go back to this big lessons learned page that we had, right? We're just going to put LL. We all know what that means. And in this, what you're going to do is you're going to be reading through all of this and you're just going to look for like recurring themes. You're going to try to find, am I doing the same thing more and more every other day? And what we're going to do is we're going to take the things that we're doing consistently and we're going to turn those into rules for our trading plan. So an example of this would be like, let's say you identified that you revenge trade a lot, which means basically if you take a loss, like if it hits your stop loss, price comes down, takes you out, that's a horrible chart. And then you immediately enter sells. And then that ends up coming back up and you take a loss again and you just start revenge trading. You take a trade, you enter again, and you think the markets owe you something. That's a problem. If you were to have that as an issue, what you would do is you would come over and be like, okay, I keep revenge trading. How do I turn this into a rule? Well, the first thing that I would think of is if I take a loss, I have to wait minimum 30 minutes before I take another trade. You can change this time to 15 minutes if you want, but honestly, the more strict you are with these rules, the more strict you will be with the entries that you take, right? Because if you know, man, if this trade's a loss, I'm gonna miss 30 minutes of this, and then the trading day might be done, and I can't take any more trades. So there's nothing wrong with having strict rules if it's the thing that's gonna keep you from losing more. Another example would be like trading NASDAQ during London session. Now, I know NASDAQ can still move during then, but if you are actually journaling and you're like, man, a lot of my losses are NASDAQ during London session, I'm gonna stop doing it. So all we're trying to do is identify these issues, but we're doing it by documenting our actual trades, not based on how we feel. Now, after going through this whole process, you have a list of rules specific to the problems that you face. These aren't problems that you just watched some YouTube video on and you're taking someone else's rules and applying it to you, hoping it works. You're finding the things that you struggle with specifically and making rules for that. But there's still one more problem, because not all things that you struggle with can be turned into rules on a trading plan. For example, if you come to me and you're like, hey Josh, I really struggle with being patient. If I told you just be more patient, it's not going to help you at all. So the second way that I like to refine my trading is when you're going through the record phase, instead of recording generic things, you want to record things that are specific to the problems that you have. So an example of this would be when I first started trading, I was trading gold on the 1 minute time frame. Now this is NASDAQ, but it still shows the same thing. This price action is horrible. I really don't like the 1 minute time frame, and I was struggling with zooming out. I would be like in buys and I see one big bearish candle. On the higher time frame, it's not a big deal, but on the 1 minute, these candles look massive. So psychologically, it was really messing with me. What I ended up doing to fix this or deal with this problem is, while I was journaling, I would take a second screenshot of the higher time frame. So I would zoom out and I would come up and I'd be able to see what it looks like on the higher time frame and the lower time frame. Another thing I struggled with was when I was trading Forex, I would trade GJ during London session and the volume was really low because it was London session. So if there's no news or data or anything happening, I really struggled with holding trades for a long time. Even if the trade was good, I would just get impatient. I'm like, I'm just gonna get out. So what I ended up doing is I added times, right? I'll show you what I did. If we had these little call boxes here, right? I was doing the same process, but instead I would put 1 and then I would put 0800. So I'd put the time, and then I would put another one down here, and I'd put whatever number I'm on, right, 2, and then I'd put 1350, whatever military time, whatever you use. So the cool thing was I got to see how many hours it took for trades to play out when there wasn't any volume or data or news. This helped me become more patient. So when you start implementing this system, you're trading, you're recording, you're reviewing, you're refining, and then you're taking those revisions and taking it back to your new trading next week. I don't think that there's any way that you can fail long term. You're gonna find a lot of problems when you start journaling the problems that you're having, but that's a good thing. The bad thing is when you choose not to fix those problems. Once again, everything that I covered in this video is in the workbook below, along with some TradingView templates. I hope you guys find it useful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.